Thank you, Lascia and Corla. Every time I talk about agriculture policy to people with no interest in farming, I can see their eyes start to glaze over. And I get it, it can seem like a niche subject that has nothing to do with the vast majority of the public. But this couldn't be further from the truth. We don't often view the Department of Agriculture as a public service like we do the Department of Health or Housing, but it is. Agriculture is how we feed ourselves as a nation, it's how we use our land, and it's how we sell ourselves as a country to the world. What could be more fundamental than that? As consumers, we have a right to know that our food is produced in a fair and ethical way, and I can tell you at present it is not. And that is at the expense of the majority of Irish farmers, migrant and Irish workers, consumers, and the environment. This is a direct result of the policies implemented by CAP and the Department of Agriculture. The power the Department of Agriculture wields is considerable, and they need to be held accountable by politicians and the public. I'd like to thank the independent group for bringing forward this motion, which enables us to talk about this matter. It raises a larger point about the role of the Dáil in relation to the government's position on agriculture and marine policies at an EU level. The forthcoming CAP will shape not only farming practices, but also the Irish landscape for potentially the next decade. It is unbelievable that there has essentially been no time devoted to discussing the government's approach. The Minister and his officials are representing farmers and this state with no oversight or scrutiny from this House. I've had to rely on parliamentary questions to get clarification on the Minister's position at the trilogue negotiations on CAP on issues such as convergence. The Commission seems to be pushing for 75% convergence, whereas the European Parliament proposed 100% convergence. What is your stance on this, Minister? I'm unsure. In response to my parliamentary question, you informed me that your department is analysing the effects of all proposed changes and engaging with European colleagues and farmer organisations, which will inform the decision-making process. This implies you do not have a position. This implies you are sitting at the Council of Ministers saying nothing. This implies no real representation of Irish farmers in the negotiations. However, representatives from farming organisations have informed me that the Minister and his officials have a position, that they are pushing the minimum convergence and for Member States to have greater function in setting the levels. Minister, either you do have a position or you do not, and you are not willing to make it known. Either way, there is no scrutiny. I have also sought that we would have an opportunity to vote on the position the Minister is taking in the negotiations, but you informed me, again through a parliamentary question, that this will not be voted on by the Oireachtas. The reality of this matter is that decisions are being made about measures that affect farmers across the country with practically no input from their TDs, their representatives. I know reduced Dáil sittings have decreased our opportunity to question ministers, but I'm seeking that the Minister will ensure that a session is added to the calendar as soon as possible to allow you to present your position on CAP negotiations for opposition TDs and indeed backbench TDs to ask questions. This large point relates directly to the motion before us. The only reason we're talking about this part of the new CAP is thanks to the independent group using one of their few private members' business lots for this. This motion is doing what the government should be. It's outlining a clear position in support of Irish farmers, allowing the House to discuss it and direct the Minister to adopt that stance in negotiations. It is clear, simple and transparent. The motion highlights category GAIAC 2, Good Agricultural and Environmental Condition 2, which refers to land with carbon-rich soils, such as uplands and drained peatlands, which are significant portions of farmland in the west of Ireland and the Midlands. You could draw a line halfway through my constituency to the Inishowen Peninsula, and most of the land to the west could fall within this category. It is the land of small farmers, the land of families who are dependent on basic payment schemes. Through the work of the Irish Natura and Hill Farmers Association, Deputy Fitzmaurice, Luke Flanagan MEP and others, it has come to light that the CAP proposals could exclude this land from the basic income support for sustainability, which will succeed the basic payment scheme. This proposal from the Council of Ministers has implications for farmers' ability to access other payments, as this land would no longer be classified as an area in which agricultural activity could take place. Deciding land is ineligible flies directly in the face of anything that resembles a just or fair transition. For too long, we've seen small farms become more and more unviable. We've seen farmer protests the length and breadth of the country. the inhumane treatment of worker and meat plants, and so many more injustices in our food system, while a small few big players reap the lion's share of rewards. This issue falls in the same failing system. As the Irish Natura and Hill Farmers Association points out, this move essentially separates carbon-rich land from all other farmland in terms of CAP. It will remove their right to payments, with eligibility becoming dependent on unclear derogations that there is no guarantee of. The motion rightly calls for the government to oppose this amendment to protect the agricultural area status of these farms. Speaking at the Agriculture Committee last week, Department officials provided a very passive summary of CAP negotiations. It was as if events were happening around them and they had no influence on them. We still remain unclear on what the official position is on GAIAC 2 land. I'd be very grateful if the Minister could outline in plain language if you will be opposing this motion at the Council of Ministers, and will you do everything you can in the negotiations to ensure these lands will be classified as agriculture. A derogation doesn't go far enough, we all know that. And the families farming will be able to retain their rights to earn a living. My constituents in Beara and the Mizzen around Bantry and the islands who could be affected by these proposed changes are eager to hear your response. The beef plan protests and the subsequent beef plan task force epitomises the way the department treats farmers and avoids meaningful engagement with them, like we're seeing today, this week. A bit of background, there used to be a law which banned below-cost selling of produce to protect primary producers and smaller retailers. The government got rid of this in 2006. So understandably, the beef plan movement have been eager to get an independent regulator on more than the agenda for negotiations they fought very hard to get. They want an independent regulator which can set rules to ensure fair trading practices. They haven't been able to get that on the agenda. Instead, the government are planning to introduce a food ombudsman, which is welcome, but they can only oversee existing rules which are clearly not working. Like many, I've always been beyond baffled at the special treatment that Larry Goodman and Meat Industry Ireland get. This treatment has never been afforded to small farmers, food producers, workers in meat plants, or consumers, and it is high time that that changed. You can change that, Minister.